Hi, I'm Gareth Kane and welcome to this special bonus lecture for the Workshop Facilitation Masterclass. It's 4 years since I recorded the content of the masterclass, and something that's emerged since then has been this idea of running virtual workshops or virtual interactive meetings. Now, I'm actually recording this during the 2020 coronavirus crisis, so suddenly everybody is working online because we're all locked down. Now, I'm hoping you're watching this after the crisis has finished and the impact hasn't been too big, but it is a very important time to be learning these skills. So, I'm recording this on Zoom, which is one of the most popular platforms, one I've been using for a few months before the crisis started, so I'm reasonably familiar with it. It's not going to be a masterclass on using Zoom. You'll have to work that out yourself, and there are other platforms. What I'm trying to give you is some generic principles which apply. Now, the first one, which I'm trying to do really well at the minute, is when I'm talking, is to look into the camera. And this can be very difficult because naturally when you're sat at a computer moving things around with a mouse, you want to look down, and also when people speak, you tend to look at their photographs and not at the camera. But there's a real thing, if you ever do any media training and you learn how to be interviewed on TV, you look down the barrel of that camera and you try not to look away. It always looks shifty if you do look away. Now, you will catch me making a mistake, but I will keep coming back, and usefully, my laptop has a green light beside the camera, so I keep staring at that, and anytime I have a problem, I come back to it. Now, you might ask yourself, well, what if I have some notes to write? Well, I've got a very simple low-tech solution. Stuck to the sides of the cameras are some Post-its, artfully arranged. I'll put that one back because I will need it later because it's got my notes for this lecture, and then you can glance at them without having to look too far away from the camera. But it's because you're so close to the camera, small movements are really magnified. The other thing is I'm wearing a headset to try and get some decent sound quality. You can use your computer audio, but it is more problematic. Headsets don't look so great, look a bit alien, but they will do the job. Right, so some basic stuff then. When you get your people online, you should be telling them to mute and unmute their microphone. Unmute when they need it, and then mute again when they're finished speaking. It's basic etiquette, and if you have lots of people online, it is really worthwhile. Now, I'm giving a short lecture here. I don't have real people with me, so you'll have to excuse me when I introduce some of my kids' cuddly toys. And this gallery view that Zoom allows is a really brilliant way to start the workshop, because everybody can see each other and get a feel for who they are. So if you're doing introductions, if people don't know each other, or even just saying hello so everybody can see who is around this virtual table, then gallery mode is very important. And you can have, dozens of people on gallery mode if you need to. I've only got 2. But the question I have is, how do I replicate my workshop basics in a virtual environment? That's the most important part of this lecture. So I'm going to go on to share screen, and I'm going to share my desktop. So we will come back to that. So normally, if I am running a workshop, as you'll see in the rest of the masterclass, I produce these large paper templates. I get people to write their ideas on Post-its, and then we post them to the appropriate part of the template while discussing the topic. Now, that is very difficult to do, and I tried it in several different formats before I came up with the way I'm going to show you today. I tried replicating this basically and standing in front of the camera, moving around and doing what I would normally do with a template behind me. It really didn't work. It doesn't come out big enough on these screens to work. So I need an electronic version, horses for courses and all that. The one thing I also found is if you try to annotate or draw a template in real time while you're facilitating, it's too much. You're trying to pull too many levers and things get lost and you can end up in a right fuss. You really don't want to be doing that. So I looked around for sort of self-formatting templates, and the easiest is PowerPoint, because once you set it up, and this would be for a very simple list, the formatting sort of takes care of itself. So if I add point 4 at the bottom of this list, if I'm brainstorming some ideas, then it automatically resizes the text. I can have subpoints, as you can see. All the rest of it's very simple. I also recommend that you simplify the screen as much as possible to get some of that extraneous nonsense off it. But that's PowerPoint is probably the simplest way of doing it. One step up in complexity is Word, and these smart art templates are very useful as well, because again, you can just type away and it will do a lot of that formatting for you. Whatever you might want to type in here. Oops. And you can edit it, and you don't have to fuss too much. And say your template has started off with a 3-step template that you want information on, and somebody says, well, actually there's an in-between step of approvals, then you can just step in very quickly and type in approvals, and Word undertakes all that formatting for you. So it's very useful. You can just talk and type, talk and type, talk and type. So smart art is my second favorite, but my most favorite is using mind map software, and there's lots of different packages. They all tend to work reasonably similarly, but you can set up the template here like this, and then you can populate it. But again, as you go along, the mind map software does all the formatting for you. So that's how I do the templates, but how do I do the interactivity? Because as I've emphasized in the masterclass, the last thing you want to do is go around the table one by one asking people for ideas. It always gets bogged down, and it always gets influenced by the first person to speak, has undue influence. So if you want to get genuine things out of people, you want them to be working away on their own and then come back to you with information. Now, how I do this is I use the chat function. Now, unfortunately, this isn't going to come up in the recording, so I'm going to have to insert a screenshot. But in this case, I've asked them for their ideas in the pestle analysis, and Sue has put under politics Brexit, which is still ongoing as a debate, tariffs. So that's what Sue is concerned about for Brexit, whereas Bob has put Brexit and put border checks. So then you can have a discussion and see whether anybody else has any other Brexit related things. But Sue has also put US elections, which are ongoing at the time I'm recording this. Who wins? So you could put Trump, and Biden, and then you could have a debate and add in more and more information on what the implications of either of those two, of whichever of those two wins the US election. And you can go through all the rest of this analysis here using the template as set out. So I don't know, technological, somebody might put use of teleworking is very moot at the moment. And somebody else could say, for example, or we could have Zoom, Teams. So while people are discussing these things, you can fill this up very quickly. And as I said before, the great thing about it is the software looks after all the formatting. All you have to do is make sure you get the words down in a reasonably sensible way. So that's how I sort of replicate that template and the post-its and that interactivity in an online meeting. Now, you can either do this as a pure workshop, as I've done before, or you could do a bit of a presentation up front using PowerPoint and then move into an interactive section like this. But I think this works really well. And the most important thing, as I keep saying, is to find some software that does all the formatting for you so things don't disappear off screen. You don't end up fighting with trying to find arrows getting dropped below other piece of graphics or anything like that. You want the software to do all the hard work for you. Right. So one of the most difficult bits actually about running an online workshop is how to finish it. So what I suggest is you go back, you stop sharing, you go back to this view where you can see everybody's faces, maybe ask them for a little bit of feedback on the session, and then you have to make the slightly awkward lunge for the end meeting button and say, thank you very much, everybody, for taking part, and goodbye. Okay, so here's a quick summary of what I've covered in this bonus lecture on virtual workshops. First of all, as a facilitator, please remember to look into the camera as much as possible. You will have to look down for some things. Try and get used to bring your eye back to the camera, and rather than talking to people on the screen. It makes a huge amount of difference, particularly during the introduction and the outro, because it creates a connection. People feel you're speaking to them and not somewhere off screen. If you need prompts, then put them on a upside down post-it and stick them either side of the webcam, if possible, but keep them very close to the webcam so your eyes don't need to flicker away that far to pick up on your notes. In terms of sound, headsets improve quality, but particularly consistency, because if you move in, you move back, you move left, you move right, the microphone's the same distance from your mouth, so you get the same volume levels. It doesn't whoosh in and out. And remember to ask participants at the start to mute themselves after speaking so it doesn't pick up extraneous background noise. I start in gallery mode, as Zoom calls it, where everybody's picture or videos on the screen at the same time. Then you can do introductions so people can really see each other, get a feel for who's speaking. It creates that sort of rapport that is invaluable later on. But then I flick to sharing a template, and we covered the creation of these templates, the reason for creating them in the Workshop Facilitation Masterclass. But the important thing here is to use self-formatting software. And I gave you examples of PowerPoint, SmartArt and Word, and mind mapping software. And these all work well. I particularly like mind mapping software. You might have another favorite that does it, but what you really want is the freedom just to type what people are telling you so you can populate the template without having to worry about the format of the template. Now, just the same, if you're doing a workshop in real life, don't go around the room, apart from in the introductions. We covered this in the masterclass. It's really boring because everybody's just waiting in either impatiently or with terror for their turn, and everybody gets influenced by the first person. So if, say, Joanne speaks first, it's guaranteed that at least 50% of the other people would say, I agree with Joanne on this. And it's because what they've heard from Joanne, thinking about that, has closed down their minds. So in real life, we use post-its and people doing a little bit of working on their own in order to avoid that. The best thing I've found doing virtual workshops is to use the chat function. So everybody types up their little chat messages, sends it through, and I do that either for each template or for a complex template, every subtopic on the template, and it means you capture everybody's ideas before they get influenced by other people. Then you can open the discussion as you start to fill in what people have given you, spot patterns within it, or places where people might disagree, and then you can open up the conversation, ask people what they think, and work up what the group opinion is. Once you've done however many templates you want to do, then go back to the gallery mode to finish so everybody can see each other again. And one of the really difficult etiquette things that everybody's finding is how to bring these sessions to an end. I recommend you don't faff on for too long, give a quick summary, and say thank you and goodbye. And with that, I will say thank you very much for watching this bonus lecture of the Workshop Facilitation Masterclass. Thank you very much and goodbye.